Hello, reading room. We are here reading day 3 of the Orphan Train. I don't have it up here yet, so just give me a second. Practice your whistling. That was another reading we were doing, just letting you know. That's not it either. That's not it either. Although I did want to show you my conversations on the Orphan Train, so I might as well show them to you right now. Since I pulled it up. It strikes me, or it doesn't matter. There was this this weird thing going on. Anyway. Doesn't Mr. Kidder have a first name? Finally, what happened to the children's village after 1923? So it changed into the children's village in 1923. Although this is bothering me a little bit because I don't have my first set of questions, and so that bothers me a little bit. All right, who is Mr. Kidder? He's Clark Kidder, who was associated with the modern documentation of the New York Juvenile Asylum. I don't know what that means. How does he get all this? He was associated with the modern documentation? He is a leading authority on the orphan train movement and is the author of the multi-volume series, A History of the New York Juvenile Asylum and its Orphan Trains. This is a 6-volume set. Let me see. Let me see. I don't have it here. His motivation began research after discovering his own paternal grandmother was an orphan train rider. The children's village after 1923 and officially changing its name from the New York Juvenile Asylum to the Children's Village in 1920, the organization underwent a major philosophical shift. Lucy's playing a lot. Good girl. Good girl. Therapeutic model moved away from the indenture and placing out orphan train model, which officially ended for this institution around 1921 to 1923. Psychiatric innovation in 1927, it became the first child care agency in the United States to establish a psychiatric clinic. You know, all this is just scientists studying children that they had identified as needing psychiatric care simply because they were displaced. Now, it's not without possible and strong potential psychological care, but not you fucking psychiatrists. Not you guys. Not you guys. You know nothing except for how to destroy the human spirit. That's what you psychiatrists know, you mental deficients. National Training School. That's the difference between psychologists and psychiatrists, by the way. That's the reason why they get to dispense pharmaceuticals. If you don't know that, why they get to dispense drugs. Psychiatrists get to dispense drugs. Psychologists do not. Psychologists look at what is informing the mind and framing the mind, and those are experiences. While psychiatrists who have a higher ranking than psychologists do know nothing about what actually causes the framing and conditions of the brain, your experiences. They know about the chemical changes they could create in your brain, and they also know it's through poison. Through poison kills cells, and they're killing cells in the gut. They're killing cells all over the place, right? That's the thinning of your gut, for example. It's killing cells is what it's doing. That's what poison does. It kills cells. Radiation, poison, it kills cells. See? So psychiatrists are in the business of distributing drugs that kill cells, that are poison. That's why they're regulated. National Training School during the 1920s, it has opened the first facility for training institution executives and social workers in the 1920s. Modern status today, the Children's Village continues to operate as a private, nonprofit residential treatment facility and school for at-risk youth on its campus in Dobbs Ferry, New York. Let's get to our book. There's more on that, but we don't really need to spend that much time on it since this is the reading room. We are still reading to you, but I get it. Let's read. Let's get to our book. That's what you're here for. I got on early. New York Central train, 1929. As the hours pass, I get used to the motion of the train, the heavy wheels clacking in their grooves, the industrial hum under my seat. So this is different than we were New York City, 1929. Now we're on the train, New York Central train, 1929. As the hours pass, I get used to the motion of the train, the heavy wheels clacking in their grooves, the industrial hum under my seat. Dusk softens the sharp points of the trees outside my window. The sky slowly darkens, then blackens around an orb of moon. Hours later, a faint blue tinge yields to the soft pastels of dawn, and soon enough sun is streaming in. The stop-start rhythm of the train makes it all feel like still photography. Thousands of images that taken together create a scene in motion. Hey, motion pictures! We pass the time looking out at the evolving landscape, talking, playing games. Mrs. Scatcherd, so we are finishing up from the last story, has a checker set and a Bible, and I thumb through it looking for Psalm 121, Ma'am's favorite. I will lift up mine eyes until the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. I'm one of few children on the train who can read. Ma'am taught me all my letters years ago. In Ireland, then taught me how to spell. When we got to New York, she'd make me read to her anything with words on it, crates and bottles I found in the street. Donner brand carbonated beverage, lemon-kissed soda, artificial, the C's sound like S, artificial color, citric acid added. Good. When I became more proficient, Ma'am went into the shabby trunk beside her bed and brought out a hard book of poems, blue with gold trim. Francis Fay was a Kinvara poet born into a family of 17 children. At 15, he became an assistant teacher at the local boys' school before heading off to England, like every other Irish poet, Ma'am said, where he mingled with the likes of Yeats and Shaw. She would turn the pages carefully, running her fingers over the black lines on flimsy paper, mouthing the words to herself until she found the one she wanted. Galway Bay, she would say, my favorite, read it to me. And so I did. Had I youth's blood and hopeful mood and heart of fire once more, for all the gold the world might hold, I'd never quit your shore. I'd live content where'er God sent the neighbors old and gray, and lay my bones 'neath churchyard stones beside you, Galway Bay. Once I looked up from a halting and botched rendition to see 2 lines of tears rivulating Ma'am's cheeks. Jesus, Mary, Joseph, she said. We should never have left that place. Sometimes on the train we sing. Mr. Curran taught us a song before we left that he stands to lead us in at least once a day. From the city's gloom to the country's bloom, where the fragrant breezes sigh, from the city's blight to the greenwood bright, like the birds of summer fly. Oh, children, dear children, young, happy, pure. We stop at a depot for sandwich fixings and fresh fruit and milk, but only Mr. Curran gets off. I can see him outside my window in his white wingtips, talking to farmers on the platform. One holds a basket of apples, one a sack full of bread. A man in a black apron reaches into a box and unwraps a package of brown paper to reveal a thick yellow slab of cheese, and my stomach rumbles. They haven't fed us much, some crusts of bread and milk and an apple, each in the past 24 hours, and I don't know if it's because they're afraid of running out or if they think it's for our moral good. Mr. Scatcherd strides up and down the aisle, letting two groups of children at a time get up to stretch while the train is still. Shake each leg, she instructs, good for the circulation. The younger children are restless, and the older boys stir up trouble in small ways wherever they can find it. I want nothing to do with these boys who seem as feral as a pack of dogs. Our landlord, Mr. Kaminsky, called boys like these street Arabs, lawless vagrants who travel in gangs, pickpockets, and worse. See the Bookless classroom? We talked about that. So you can see how the offspring of maybe, for example, gypsies might end up doing these little gang kinds of behaviors, and worse. When the train pulls out of the station, one of these boys lights a match, invoking the wrath of Mr. Curran, who boxes him about the head and shouts for the whole car to hear that he's a worthless, good-for-nothing clod of dirt on God's green earth and will never amount to anything. This outburst does little but boost the boy's status in the eyes of his friends, who take to devising ingenious ways to irritate Mr. Curran without giving themselves away. Paper airplanes, loud belches, high-pitched ghostly moans, followed by stifled giggles. It drives Mr. Curran mad that he cannot pick out one boy to punish for all this. But what can he do short of kicking them all out of the next stop, which he actually threatens, finally looming in the aisle above the seats of two particularly rowdy boys, only to prompt the bigger ones retort that he'll be happy to make his way on his own, has done it for years with no great harm. You can shine shoes in any city in America. He'll wager, and it's probably a hell of a lot better than being sent to live in a barn with animals, eating only pig slop, or getting carried off by Indians. Children murmur in their seats. What'd he say? Mr. Curran looks around uneasily. You're scarring a whole car full of kids. Happy now, he says. It's true, ain't it? Of course it ain't. Isn't true. Kids, settle down. I hear we'll be sold at auction to the highest bidder, another boy stage whispers. The car grows silent. Mrs. Scatcherd stands up, wearing her usual thin-lipped scowl and broad-brimmed bonnet. She is far more imposing in her heavy black cloak and flashing steel-rimmed glasses than Mr. Curran could ever be. I have heard enough, she says in a shrill voice. I am tempted to throw the whole lot of you off this train, but that would not be. She looks around at us slowly, dwelling on each somber face. Christian, would it? Mr. Curran and I are here to escort you to a better life. Any suggestions to the contrary is ignorant and outrageous. It is our fervent hope that each of you will find a path out of the depravity of your early lives and with firm guidance and hard work transform into respectable citizens who can pull your weight in society. Now, I am not so naive as to believe that this will be the case for all. She casts a withering look at a blonde-haired older boy, one of the troublemakers, but I am hopeful that most of you will view this as an opportunity, perhaps the only chance you will ever get to make something of yourselves. She adjusts the cape around her shoulders. Mr. Curran, maybe the young man who spoke to you so impudently should be moved to a seat where his dubious charms will not be so enthusiastically embraced. She lifts her chin, peering out from her bonnet like a turtle from its shell. Ah, there's a space beside Neve, she says, pointing a crooked finger in my direction with the added bonus of a squirming toddler. My skin prickles. Oh no, but I can see that Mrs. Scatcherd is in no mood to reconsider, so I slide as close as I can to the window and set Carmine on his blanket next to me in the middle of the seat. Several rows ahead, on the other side of the aisle, the boy stands, sighs loudly, and pulls his bright blue flannel cap down hard on his head. He makes a production of getting out of his seat, then drags his feet up the aisle like a condemned man approaching a noose. When he gets to my row, he squints at me, then at Carmine, and makes a face at his friends. This should be fun, he says loudly. You will not speak, young sir, Mrs. Scatcherd trills. You will sit down and behave like a gentleman. He flings himself into his seat, his legs in the aisle, then takes his cap off and slaps it against the seat in front of us, raising a small cloud of dust. The kids in this seat turn around and stare. Man, he mutters, not really to anybody, what an old goat. He holds his finger out to Carmine, who studies it and looks at his face. The boy wiggles his finger and Carmine buries his head in my lap. Don't get you nowhere being shy, the boy says. He looks over at me, his gaze loitering on my face and body in a way that makes me blush. He has straight sandy hair and pale blue eyes. And is of 12 or 13 from what I can tell, though his manner seems older. A redhead, that's worse than a bootlack. Who's gonna want you? A redhead, that's worse than a bootblack. Who's gonna want you? I feel the sting of truth in his words, but I lift my chin. At least I'm not a criminal. He laughs. That's what I am I? You tell me. Would you believe me? Probably not. No point then, is there? I do not respond, and we three sit in silence. Carmine awed into stillness by the boy's presence. I look out at the severe and lonely landscape drifting past the window. It's been raining off and on all day. Gray clouds hang low in a watery sky. They took my kit from me, the boy says after a while. I turn to look at him. What? The bootblack kit. All my paste and brushes. How do they expect me to make a living? They don't. They're going to find you a family. Ah, that's right, he says with a dry laugh. A ma to tuck me in at night and a pa to teach me a trade. I don't see it working out like that, do you? I don't know, haven't thought about it. I say, though, of course I have. I've gleaned bits and pieces that babies are the first to be chosen, then older boys, prized by farmers for their strong bones and muscles. Last to go are the girls, like me, too old to be turned into ladies, too young to be serious help around the house. Not much use in the field. If we're not chosen, we get sent back to the orphanage. Anyway, what can we do about it? Reaching into his pocket, he pulls out a penny. He rolls it across his fingers, holds it between thumb and forefinger, and touches it to Carmine's nose, then clasps it in his closed fist. When he opens his hand, the penny isn't there. He reaches behind Carmine's ear, and presto, he says, handing him the penny. Carmine gazes at it astonished. You can Put up with it, the boy says, or you can run away, or maybe you'll get lucky and live happily ever after. Only the good Lord knows what's going to happen, and he ain't telling. Union Station, Chicago, 1929. We become an odd little family. The boy, real name Hans, I learn, called Dutchie on the street, and Carmine and I, our 3-seat abode. Dutchie tells me he was born in New York to German parents, that his mother died of pneumonia, and his father sent him out on the streets to earn money as a boot black, beating him with the belt if he didn't bring enough in. So one day he stopped going home. He fell in a group of boys who slept on any convenient step or sidewalk during the summer, and in the winter months in barrels and doorways, in discarded boxes on iron gratings on the margin of Printing House Square, warm air and steam rising from the engines beneath. He taught himself piano by ear in the back room of a speakeasy, plunked out tunes at night for drunken patrons, saw things no 12-year-old should see. The boys tried to look after one another, though, if one got sick or maimed, catching pneumonia or falling off a streetcar or under the wheels of a truck. There wasn't much any of them could do. A few kids from Dutchie's gang are on the train with us. He points out Slobbery Jack, who has a habit of spilling on himself, and Whitey, a boy with translucent skin. They were lured off the street with the promise of a hot meal, and here's where they ended up. What about the hot meal? Did you get it? Did we ever? Roast beef and potatoes and a clean bed, but I don't trust it. I wager they're paid by the head, the way Indians take scalps. It's charity, I say. Didn't you hear what Mrs. Scatcherd said? It's their Christian duty. All I know is nobody ever did nothing for me out of Christian duty. I call, tell them by the way they're talking. I think that's I can tell by the way they're talking. I'm going to end up worked to the bone and not see a dime for it. You're a girl. You might be all right baking pies in the kitchen or taking care of a baby. He squints at me. Except for the red hair and freckles, you look okay. You'll be fine and dandy sitting at the table with a napkin on your lap. Not me. I'm too old to be taught manners or to follow somebody else's rules. The only thing I'm good for is hard labor. Same with all us newsies and peddlers and bill posters and boot blacks. He nods toward one boy after another in the car. On the third day, we cross the Illinois state line near Chicago. Mrs. Scatcherd stands for another lecture. In a few minutes, we will arrive at Union Station, whereupon we will switch trains for the next portion of our journey, she tells us. If it were up to me, I'd send you in a straight line right across the platform to the other trains without a minute's worry that you'll get yourselves into trouble. But we are not allowed to board for half an hour. Young men, you will wear your suit coats, and young ladies must put on your pinafores. Careful not to muss them now. Chicago is a proud and noble city on the edge of a great lake. The lake makes it windy, hence its appellation, the Windy City. You will bring your suitcases, of course, and your wool blanket to wrap yourself in, as we will be on the platform for at least an hour. The good citizens of Chicago no doubt view you as ruffians, thieves, and beggars, hopeless sinners who have not a chance in the world of being redeemed. They are justifiably suspicious of your character. Your task is to prove them wrong, to behave with impeccable manners, and comport yourselves like the model citizens the Children's Aid Society believes you can become. Now, to me, honestly, just to interject right there is such a noble character about Mrs. Scatcherd, right? Not a noble name, but a noble character. These are people who were put in situations by likely rich and powerful people. to take care of these kids. And you could likely look at these kids and tell which ones can make it based on their intellect and their personality, but maybe not so much their looks. You give them an edge up by putting a baby in their hands, right? So a rich couple might pick up on her because they want a baby and they want someone to help them take care of the baby that the baby is already attached to. So there is a real, genuine, authentic love. That's this what we called in growing up tough love. That's tough love. This is the way the world is. It sucks what happened to you. And what is a wound upon a wound is the fact that in your mind's eye, you left a place that was certainly better than a new place where you lost your entire family. Why did we leave? Why did we leave? Why did we leave? Now we have federal agents at our door. We have to obey, and the only people who even think to obey a federal agent in this country are immigrants. Because they don't know any better. Now, I'm not saying that that's true. What I'm saying is given this history, sometimes even right here, right? That's what it looks like. And the men don't know what to do and have no patience. And the women do know what to do and have the right amount of patience. There are things they won't put up with, rightfully so. The wind on the platform rushes through my dress. I wrap my blanket tight around my shoulders, keeping a close eye on Carmine as he staggers around, seemingly oblivious to the cold. He wants to know the names of everything: train, wheel, Mrs. Scatcherd frowning at the conductor, Mr. Curran poring over papers with a station agent, lights, which to Carmine's amazement turn on while he's gazing at them as if by magic, contrary to Mrs. Scatcherd's expectations, or perhaps in response to her rebuke. We are a quiet lot. Even the older boys, we huddle together, complacent as cattle, stamping out feet to stay warm. Except for Dutchie. Where did he go? Psst, Neve. When I hear my name, I turn to glimpse his blonde hair in a stairwell. Then he's gone. I look over at the adults occupied with plans and forms. A large rat scurries along the far brick wall, and as the rest of the children point and shriek, I scoop up Carmine, leaving our small pile of suitcases, and slip behind a pillar and a pile of wooden crates. In the stairwell, out of sight of the platform, Dutchie leans against a curved wall. When he sees me, he turns without expression and bounds up the stairs, vanishing around a corner. With a glance behind and seeing no one, I hold Carmine close and follow him, keeping my eyes on the wide steps so I don't fall. Carmine tilts his head up and leans back in my arms, floppy as a sack of rice. "Yite," he murmurs, pointing. My gaze follows his chubby finger to what I realize is the enormous, barrel-vaulted ceiling of the train station laced with lights. We step into the huge terminal filled with people of all shapes and colors, wealthy women in furs trailed by servants, men in top hats and morning coats, shop girls in bright dresses. It's so much to take in at once. Statuary and columns, balconies and staircases, oversized wooden benches. Dutchie is standing in the middle, looking up at the sky through the glass ceiling, and then he takes off his cap and flings it into the air. Carmine struggles to free himself, and as soon as I set him down, he races toward Dutchie and grabs his legs. Dutchie reaches down and hoists him on his shoulders as I get close. I hear him say, "Put your arms out, little man, and I'll spin you." He clasps Carmine's legs and twirls. Carmine, stretching out his arms and throwing his head back, gazes up at the skylights, shrieking with glee. as they turn, and in that moment, for the first time since the fire, my worries are gone. I feel a joy so strong it's almost painful, a knife's edge of joy, and then a whistle pierces the air. 3 policemen in dark uniforms rush towards Dutchie with their sticks drawn, and everything happens too fast. I see Mrs. Scatcherd at the top of the stairwell, pointing her crow wing. Mr. Curran running in those ridiculous white shoes, Carmine clutching Dutchie's neck in terror as a fat policeman shouts, "Get down!" My arm is wrenched behind my back and a man spits in my ear. "Trying to get away, were you?" His breath like licorice. It's hopeless to respond, so I keep my mouth shut as he forces me to my knees. A hush falls over the carnivorous hall. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Dutchie on the floor under a policeman's truncheon. Carmine is howling, his cries puncturing the stillness, and every time Dutchie moves, he gets jammed in the side. Then he's in handcuffs, and the fat policeman yanks him to his feet, pushing him roughly, so he stumbles forward, tripping over his feet. In this moment, I know that he's in scrapes like this. He's been in scrapes like this before. His face is blank. He doesn't even protest. I can tell what the bystanders think. He's a common criminal. He's broken the law, likely more than one. The police are protecting the good citizens of Chicago, and thank God for them. The fat policeman drags Dutchie over to Mrs. Scatcherd, and licorice breath following his lead yanks me roughly by the arm. Mrs. Scatcherd looks as if she's bitten into a lime. Her lips are puckered in a quivering O, and she appears to be trembling. "I placed this young man with you," she says to me in a terrible quiet voice, "in the hopes that you might provide a civilizing influence. It appears that I was gravely mistaken." My mind is racing. If only I can convince her that he means no harm. "No, ma'am, do not interrupt." I look down. "So what do you have to say for yourself?" I know that nothing I can say will change her opinion of me, and in that realization I feel oddly free. The most I can hope for is to keep Dutchie from being sent back to the streets. "It's my fault," I say. "I asked Hans, to escort me and the baby up the stairs." I look over at Carmine trying to squirm out of the arms of the policeman holding him. "I thought maybe we could get a glimpse of that lake. I thought the baby would like to see it." Mrs. Scatcherd glares at me. Dutchie looks at me with surprise. Carmine says, "Yake?" And then Carmine saw the lights. I point up and look at Carmine, and he throws his head back and shouts, "Yite!" The policemen aren't sure what to do. Licorice breath lets go of my arm, apparently persuaded that I'm not going to flee. Mr. Curran glances at Mrs. Scatcherd, whose expression has ever so slightly softened. "You are a foolish and headstrong girl," she says, but her voice has lost its edge, and I can tell she's not as angry as she wants to appear. "You flouted my instructions to stay on the platform. You put the entire group of children at risk, and you have disgraced yourself. Worse, you have disgraced me and Mr. Curran," she adds, turning toward him. He winces as if to say, "Leave me out of it." "But this is not, I suppose, a matter for the police. A civil, not a legal matter," she clarifies. The fat policeman, a show of unlocking Dutchie's handcuffs and clipping them to his belt, makes a show of unlocking Dutchie's handcuffs and clipping them to his belt. "Sure you don't want us to take him in, ma'am?" "Thank you, sir, but Mr. Curran and I will devise a sufficient punishment." As you say, he touches the brim of his cap, backs away, and turns on his heels. "Make no mistake," Mrs. Scatcherd says gravely, staring down at her nose at us. "You will be punished." Mrs. Scatcherd raps Dutchie's knuckles several times with a long wooden ruler, though it seems to me a half-hearted penalty. He barely winces, then shakes his hands twice in the air and winks at me. Truly, there isn't much more she can do. Stripped of family and identity, fed meager rations, consigned to hard wooden seats until we are to be, as Slobbery Jack suggested, sold into slavery. Our mere existence is punishment enough. Though she threatens to separate the three of us, in the end she leaves us together, not wanting to infect the others with Dutchie's delinquency, she says, and apparently having decided that taking care of Carmine would have extended my punishment to her. She tells us not to speak to or even look at each other. If I hear as much as a murmur, so help me, she says, the threat losing air over our heads like a pricked balloon. By the time we leave Chicago, it is evening. Carmine sits on my lap with his hands on the window, face pressed against the glass, gazing out at the streets and buildings all lit up. Yite, he says softly as the city recedes into the distance. I look out the window with him. Soon all is dark. It's impossible to tell where land ends and the sky begins. Get a good night's rest, Mrs. Scatcherd calls from the front of the car. In the morning you will need to be at your very best. It is vital that you make a good impression. Your drowsiness might well be construed as laziness. What if nobody wants me? One boy asks, and the entire car seems to hold its breath. It is the question on everyone's mind, the question that none of us are sure we want to hear the answer to. Mrs. Scatcherd looks down at Mr. Curran as if she's been waiting for this. If it happens that you are not chosen at the first stop, you will have several additional opportunities. I cannot think of an instance. She pauses and purses her lips. It is uncommon for a child to be with us on the return trip to New York. Pardon me, ma'am, a girl near the front says. What if I don't want to go with the people who choose me? What if they beat us? A boy cries out. Children, Mrs. Scatcherd's small glasses flash as she turns her head from side to side. I will not have you interrupting. She seems poised to sit down without addressing these questions, but then changes her mind. I will say this. There is no accounting for taste and personalities. Some parents are looking for a healthy boy to work on the farm. As we all know, hard work is good for children, and you would be lucky to be placed with a God-fearing farm family. All you boys, and some people want babies. People sometimes think they want one thing, but later change their minds. Though we dearly hope all of you will find the right homes at the first stop, it doesn't always work out that way. So in addition to being respectable and polite, you must also keep your faith in God to guide you forward if the way is not clear, whether your journey is long or short. He will keep you as long as you place your trust in him. I look over at Dutchie and he looks back at me. Mrs. Scatcherd knows as little as we do about whether we'll be chosen by people who will treat us with kindness. We are headed toward the unknown, and we have no choice but to sit quietly in our hard seats and let ourselves be taken there. Spruce Harbor, Maine, 2011. Let me see how long this chapter is. Oh, it's very short. Let's read this chapter. Spruce Harbor, Maine, 2011. Walking back to the car, Molly sees Jack through the windshield. Oh, no. We're 2011. So we probably got another 2011 and back to 2019. I feel like reading more. And I don't mind getting back to see Molly. So Spruce Harbor, Maine, 2011. Walking back to the car, Molly sees Jack through the windshield, eyes closed, grooving out to a song she can't hear. Hey, she says loudly, opening the passenger door. He opens his eyes and yanks the buds out of his ears. How'd it go? She shakes her head and climbs in. Hard to believe she was only in there for 20 minutes. Vivian's an odd one. 50 hours, my God. But it's going to work out? I guess so. We made a plan to start on Monday. Jack pats her leg. Awesome. You'll knock out those hours in no time. Let's not count on our Let's not count our chickens. She's always doing this, crabbily countering his enthusiasm, but it's become something of a routine. She'll tell him, I'm nothing like you, Jack. I'm bitchy and spiteful, but is secretly relieved when he laughs it off. He has an optimistic certainty that she's a good person at her core. If he has this faith in her, then she must be all right, right? Just keep telling yourself, better than juvie, he says. Are you sure about that? It'd probably be easier to serve my time and get it over with. Except for that small problem of having a record. She shrugs. That'd be kind of badass, though, don't you think? Really, Moll? He says with a sigh, turning the ignition key. She smiles to let him know she's kidding. Sort of. Better than juvie. That would make a good tattoo. She points to her arm. Right here, across my bicep. And 20-point script. Don't even joke, he says. Dina plunks the skillet of hamburger helper on the trivet in the middle of the table and sits heavily in her chair. Oof, I'm exhausted. Tough day at work, huh, babe? Ralph says, as he always does, though Dina never asks him about his day. Maybe plumbing isn't as exciting as being a police dispatcher in Thrill-A-Minute Spruce Harbor. Molly, hand me your plate. My back is killing me from that crappy chair they make me sit in, Dina says. I swear if I went to a chiropractor, I'd have a lawsuit. Molly gives her plate to Ralph, and he drops some casserole on it. Molly has learned to pick around the meat, even in a dish like this, where you can hardly tell what's what, and it's all mixed together because Dina refuses to acknowledge that she's a vegetarian. Dina listens to conservative talk radio, belongs to a fundamentalist Christian church, and has a guns don't kill people, abortion clinics do bumper sticker on her car. She and Molly are about as opposite as it is possible to be, which would be fine if Dina didn't take Molly's choices as a personal affront. Dina is constantly rolling her eyes, muttering under her breath about Molly's various infractions. Didn't put away her laundry, left a bowl in the sink, can't be bothered to make her bed, all of which are part and parcel of the liberal agenda that's ruining this country. Molly knows she should ignore these comments. Water off a duck's back, Ralph says, but they irk her. She's overly sensitive to them, like a tuning fork pitched too high. It's all part of Dina's unwavering message. Be grateful. Dress like a normal person. Don't have opinions. Eat the food that's put in front of you. Molly can't quite figure out how Ralph fits into all this. She knows he and Dina met in high school, followed a predictable football player, cheerleader story arc, and have been together ever since. But she can't tell if Ralph actually buys Dina's party line or just toes it to make her life easier. Sometimes she sees a glimmer of independence, a raised eyebrow, a carefully worded, possibly ironic observation like, well, we can't have a decision on that till the boss gets home. Still, all things considered, Molly knows she has it pretty good. Her own room is a tidy house, employed and sober foster parents, a decent high school, a nice boyfriend. She isn't expected to take care of a passel of kids, and she knows was at one of the places she lived or clean up after 15 dirty cats as she was at another. In the past 9 years, she's been in over a dozen foster homes, some for as little as a week. She's been spanked with a spatula slapped across the face, made to sleep on an unheated sun porch in the winter, taught to roll a joint by a foster father, fed lies for the social worker. She got her tats illegally at 16 from a 23-year-old friend of the Banger family, an ink expert in training, as he called himself, who was just starting out and did it for free, or, well, sort of. She wasn't so attached to her virginity anyway. With the tines of her fork, Molly mashes the hamburger into her plate, hoping to grind it into oblivion. She takes a bite and smiles at Dina. Good, thanks. Dina purses her lips and cocks her head, clearly trying to gauge whether Molly's praise is sincere. Well, Dina, Molly thinks it is, and it isn't. Thank you for taking me in and feeding me. But if you think I can squash my ideals, force me to eat meat when I told you I don't, expect me to care about your aching back when you don't seem the slightest bit interested in my life, you can forget it. I'll play your fucking game, but I don't have to play by your rules. Amen, sister. Okay, we're going to pick up on Tuesday with the other half of Spruce, Maine. I don't mind doing this, like splitting up the storyline with Molly, because when I went back and, split it up, it's like, a reminder of where we were. So this will be a reminder of Molly, not just a complete severance of Molly. All right, thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom. We've been here for about 45 minutes, so that's pretty good, I think. It is Thursday, February 5th. The last of our 3 days on, as we welcome our 4 days off, because we're excited to get some dopamine going in the direction of something that me, might be a little more interested. There isn't anything more interesting than the classroom to me. You know that. It is February 5th, and I say that with all sincerity. It is day 308. Thanks so much for joining me here in the classroom. This is Dr. Annette Feravich in every way, shape, and form. 4 days on, or 4 days off, 3 days on, no matter what the format. We are here to make your lives healthier, your bodies healthier, your minds healthier, your spirits healthier. I said it, your lives healthier. Thanks for joining me.